Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB Live News. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets this morning, what we can expect from the US session, what to keep an eye on from the economic calendar point of view, and what the major moves and some key levels to keep an eye on are on the charts. So let's start with a recap of what happened earlier in the first part of today's session. Today, Friday, the 25th or the 21st of May, 2021. So we had a mixed start to the session. We had some important data coming out of France and Germany, which I'll talk about in a minute. But mixed start after yesterday, US indices finished the session higher, with the S&P rising 0.55% and Dow Jones over 1%. We also had the news of the Iran deal continuing. So I mentioned this at the beginning of the week. The Iran talks continue with a nuclear deal, which, as we've talked about in other videos and webinars, could bring back about 2 million barrels per day of supply into the markets. Obviously, that can create some sort of pressure on the price of oil. And so we've seen some moves this week based on that news as well, along with the inventory reports from the US the other day, which were slightly better than expectations in the sense of being below, the increase was below what was expected. We also had Bitcoin with the crash this week and still hovering around $40,000, while Ethereum pulled back towards $2,750. And when it comes to the economic calendar, I already mentioned today, a lot of data today from Europe mainly, and actually some from the US. We have manufacturing and services PMI from Germany, France, and the Eurozone, along with the UK. So Germany was mixed, slightly, one was below expectation, one was above. France was slightly better, Eurozone was okay. And then we had the UK, which was actually significantly above expectations at 66 rather than 60, while the services was slightly below. And because of that, we saw also some recovery in the indices as well, especially in the second part of the session. So we also have the Canadian retail sales today, which were also highly above expectation, and we're awaiting the US flash manufacturing PMI and services PMI as well, which will be definitely kept an eye on. And finally, we have the central banker speeches from Lagarde, president of the ECB, and FOMC member Daly from America, from the US. So let's take a look at the charts and see what's happening today on the markets in this final trading session of the week. Start with the DAX, as I said, mixed session, so a sideways start for the session. Despite the mixed data, we have now in the second part of the session this small upward move happening, or attempted upward move on the hourly chart. You can see after testing this moving average here, the 8 EMA. But still remains quite close to its all-time high. The recovery, all things considered, you can see that after dropping over 3.75%, is now up 3.21%, so about 0.7% just from the all-time high, and now approaching these levels over here. If we take a look at the UK index, especially considering the positive data, we did not see this massive jump, but we did see the index still hovering in the area which we mentioned in the past. So I talked about these three levels: 6,800, 6,900, which we could draw maybe here, and then 6,000 or 7,000. And so these are the three levels that the index has been mainly hovering around, and then obviously reaching a high recently of 7,076, coinciding with this area as well. And now currently testing the 7,000 psychological level, which definitely can be important. As far as US indices go, positive end yesterday, but again, similar to the DAX, we can see a similar situation. You can see actually testing this double resistance here, or this area that acted as a resistance twice. It's approaching it around 4,180 points. The resistance here being tested at the same time for the third time, so it's definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on what's going to happen here. It's quite far from this last support, but we'll see. As far as the tech stocks go, we can see similar situation for the NASDAQ, with the NASDAQ rebounding as well, and now testing the area around 13,500 points. Similar situation, but as you can see, compared to the S&P, we don't have the double resistance here. We actually just have the gap from this huge downward move, and it would have to close it. To close it, it would have to be all the way up here, or even just around this area around here. Taking a look at commodities, we can look at oil. So Oil, as I mentioned, quite a movement, a lot of movement this week. And we saw that because of the news. We saw that because of the prospects as well of the coronavirus variants that have been popping up. So including the Indian variant and all the uncertainty regarding the reopening of travel between countries. That's definitely going to be playing a part in the price of oil. But as I mentioned at the beginning, mainly one of the main news issues was the Iran deal, which could bring back more supply. So on the chart, we see on the hourly, after reaching a high around $70, Brent pulled back all the way over 8%, or just about 8%, to 64.47 or 64.50, and is now attempting to recover. So we saw a few attempts here with some consolidation here before pulling back further, and lower lows being reached until here. So now we are seeing the price approach the lower limit of the Ichimoku cloud. And if you're on the WhatsApp group, you'll see the alert I sent on this issue. So it's approaching the lower limit of the Ichimoku cloud around 66.50, but we're up about 2.5% almost from the low today. And it is quite a long way still until $670, so about 6.5%. And despite, as I said, the better than expected or lower than expected inventory report from the US, we saw the continuation of the drop here. And so it remains to be seen if and how the UN or the US talks with Iran will continue, and how they will play into the price of oil as well. WTI, similar situation, with the price dropping from a high of $67, just about 8%, just like Brent, and then recovering about 3% at the moment, and actually currently testing the Ichimoku cloud, the lower limit of the cloud. When it comes to gold extending, you can see the daily chart here. A lot of positive green a lot of green candles for gold. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 here, and then 7. We have, if we want to count it from the beginning, that is 12 candles with 2 red and 10 green. 10 green, so 10 out of the 12 last candles are on the daily are green, with the price going from 1764 to about 1886 or 1890 if you want to count the all-time high, or the recent high, sorry. So about 7%. And if we bring it down to the hourly chart, we can see the move at the moment. This is the level we were talking about at the beginning of the week. We talked about this level being tested and not being able to, the price not being able to break through it. But we saw a temporary breakout, which led to 1890. And then a pullback testing the upper limit of the Ichimoku cloud, never really breaking below it. And then throughout testing it here one last time yesterday. And then today continuing the upward move, approaching the recent resistance and recent high of 1890. Silver is also, after the drop, trending upwards, and you can see is approaching this area around here, 28,280, and if you want to go even higher, about this area around $30 as well. And let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick, just to take a look after this is on daily. Of course, you see this huge drop the other day, and then recovery at the moment hovering around $40,000. When it comes to currencies, let's take a look. We have the euro, one of the worst performing currencies today, trading lower against everything. The dollar is mixed. Pound is slightly positive. CAD is slightly positive, more positive, except for on the New Zealand side. New Zealand is actually very positive. And we have all these other smaller currencies as well. So if we take a look at the pairs, we see pound dollar. Obviously, we've been in this range for a few days now, above the 141 area, which you can see this most recent upward move took it above 140 and 141. We're remaining in this slightly more narrow range from here to here, testing this lower limit and this upper limit. If we want to draw it a little bit closer as well, you can see even reaching 142, and now pound dollar is actually approaching the 3-year high. So this is because also the dollar weakness, which I will show you on the other chart as well. So we see on the lower end, we have a potential support area around 141 on the pound dollar, while the current resistance is the recent high, and it's the highest level in a very long time, as I can show you on the daily. So this from February here is the high from February, around 142.3, and then to go before that, we would have to go all the way to 2018, so 3 years ago. So if we break through this, it would be a new high in 3 years. And but yes, that is quite a strong resistance because obviously 3 years have passed, and you can see the recovery move, especially after dropping here. We had the whole Brexit situation with the pound, so it's been quite the recovery, and it took a very long time to get obviously just to the 2018 levels again. And then finally, let's take a look at Euro USD, with the euro dropping as I mentioned today, but let's take a look at also the USD, so the US dollar. So this is the euro dollar. We have trading around 122, approaching similar technical setup to the pound. Almost, you can see the support area here with a similar resistance on top, but the direction is reversed. Obviously, the pound is pushing higher, the euro is pulling back, but still trading around 122, briefly dropping below it, but not nearing this level here, which acted as a resistance here, and then as a support here. And if we want to add the US dollar index to just take a look and see, you can see that while obviously this is the representative of the strength of the dollar, as the dollar moves up, we see a pullback in the Euro USD pair. And on that end, the dollar has been dropping significantly as of late, so you can see that the moves are quite symmetrical, and now we're seeing a recovery. So both the euro is actually one of the worst performing currencies, and the dollar is actually performing a little bit better today. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good weekend. My name is Walid Koudmani, Market Analyst. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Good luck with your trading, and see you next week.